Imagine this. Tonight, after sunset, you'll casually tap a switch and your room will instantly glow with light. You probably won't even think about it, but for almost all of human existence, that simple action was impossible. For hundreds of thousands of years, when darkness arrived, the world became almost completely black. People could barely see beyond the faint outline of their own bodies. Modern humans rarely experience true darkness anymore, but nearly every ancestor you've ever had spent close to half of their life surrounded by it. Long before electric bulbs, before oil lamps, and even before candles became common, humans relied only on moonlight, starlight, and whatever flames they managed to keep alive through the night. So what filled those endless dark hours? The answer reveals surprising truths about human nature, sleep, imagination, and the development of civilization itself. Everything begins with fire, because fire transformed human life more than almost any invention in history. Some of the earliest convincing evidence of controlled fire comes from Wonderwerk cave in South Africa, dating back around 1 million years. Fire was far more than warmth. It fundamentally changed how humans used time. Before our ancestors mastered fire, they behaved much like other primates. Once the sun disappeared, movement became extremely dangerous. Humans do not see well in darkness, especially compared to predators such as lions, hyenas, wolves, or leopards. Night belonged to the hunters, not to us. Early humans likely climbed trees, hid in sheltered places, and remained still until sunrise. But a fire changed everything. A burning campfire created a protected area, a circle of safety where predators hesitated to approach. Outside the glow of the flames, danger waited. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities have documented that even today, people who wander too far from campfires at night face a much greater risk of predator attacks. Yet protection was only part of the story. Fire also created something revolutionary: extra waking hours. Before artificial light, daylight determined the limits of activity. In winter, usable daylight might last only 8 hours. Fire extended the evening by several more hours every single day. Across countless generations, those additional hours reshaped human society and even the human mind. Anthropologist Wiessner explored this idea in a groundbreaking study published in 2014. She spent years observing the hoansi people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the few remaining hunter-gatherer societies whose lifestyle resembles that of ancient humans. What she discovered was remarkable. Daytime conversations were mostly practical: hunting plans, food gathering, disputes, and survival tasks. But after dark, around the fire, conversation transformed completely. People told stories, they shared myths, discussed distant places, laughed at jokes, and reflected on human relationships. Nighttime became the time for imagination and social connection. According to Wiessner, the campfire may have been humanity's first classroom, first theater, and first spiritual gathering place. Around those flames, humans learned to think beyond immediate survival. Stories passed knowledge across generations and strengthened social bonds. In many ways, culture itself may have been born in the firelight. But storytelling was not the only thing happening at night. There was another forgotten human behavior that modern science rediscovered only recently. Humans were not originally designed to sleep in one uninterrupted block the way most people attempt to today. Historian Roger Ekirch spent 16 years studying old documents and uncovered hundreds of references to something modern people had almost completely forgotten: first sleep and second sleep. These references appeared in diaries, medical texts, court records, literature, and religious writings stretching across centuries. Before the industrial era, people commonly slept in 2 separate periods. They would fall asleep a few hours after sunset, rest for roughly 4 hours, then naturally wake for 1 or 2 hours during the middle of the night. After this peaceful waking period, they returned to sleep until dawn. During those quiet nighttime hours, people engaged in many activities. Some prayed, some reflected on dreams, others visited neighbors, read, wrote, or simply sat quietly in contemplation. Historical texts even recommended the middle of the night as an ideal time for thinking deeply, because the mind was calm and distractions were absent. Yet for centuries, historians misunderstood these references because modern society assumed humans had always slept continuously. Translators often forced ancient texts to fit modern sleep habits, rather than considering the possibility that people once slept differently. Then science unexpectedly confirmed the historical evidence. In the early 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr conducted an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health. Volunteers were removed from artificial lighting and exposed to long periods of darkness, similar to what pre-industrial humans experienced. After several weeks, all participants naturally adopted the same pattern described in historical records: about 4 hours of sleep, followed by a period of quiet wakefulness, then another several hours of sleep. Nobody instructed them to do this. Their bodies simply returned to an ancient rhythm. Even more fascinating were the psychological effects. During the wakeful period, participants entered a deeply relaxed state, unlike ordinary waking consciousness. Their hormone levels showed elevated prolactin, a hormone associated with calmness and emotional peace. Many participants described feeling reflective, meditative, and unusually tranquil. This middle-of-the-night state was not insomnia in the modern sense. It appeared to be a natural part of human biology that modern lifestyles had buried beneath artificial light and rigid schedules. So what caused this ancient sleep pattern to disappear? The answer is simple: modern illumination. Beginning in the 1600s, European cities started installing street lighting. Paris and London gradually turned night into something less threatening. Later came inexpensive candles, gas lamps, and finally electric lighting in the late 19th century. When Thomas Edison popularized the electric light bulb, humanity fundamentally changed its relationship with darkness. Within only a few generations, the natural rhythm humans had followed for thousands of years nearly vanished. Even language preserves traces of that older world. The word curfew comes from the French phrase couvre-feu, meaning cover the fire. In medieval towns, bells signaled people to extinguish flames and retreat indoors for the night. Darkness was expected. Being outside after dark was suspicious and sometimes illegal. Night carried fear, mystery, and danger in ways modern people can barely imagine. Today, however, humans remain surrounded by artificial light for hours after sunset. Screens, LED bulbs, televisions, and phones continuously signal to the brain that it is still daytime. Blue light suppresses melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating sleep cycles. As a result, sleep becomes fragmented, delayed, and often less restorative. Researchers have even found that spending only a week outdoors without artificial lighting can dramatically reset human circadian rhythms. The body quickly returns to older biological patterns once modern light disappears. Perhaps the most striking possibility is that modern society may have erased an entire state of consciousness. That peaceful, reflective period between first and second sleep, a state many ancient people experienced every night, has almost vanished. Instead, people wake during the night and panic, assuming something is wrong. But maybe waking at 2 a.m. is not necessarily a malfunction. Maybe it is an echo of an older human rhythm that modern civilization pushed aside. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans spent their nights beneath stars, untouched by city lights. The Milky Way was not a distant attraction. It was part of everyday life. Families gathered around flames, sharing stories that shaped memory, identity, and culture. Between periods of sleep, people lay quietly in darkness, thinking about dreams, fears, hopes, and tomorrow's challenges. Then humanity flooded the night with electric light, extended the day indefinitely, and slowly forgot the ancient rhythms that once defined what it meant to be human.